our offshore and positioning and why there was such momentum was the working efforts of this province and with industry, with other provinces and with the Government of Canada through the Atlantic Energy Roundtable in terms of efficiencies and regulatory processes and moving forward and trying to provide a better climate from lessons learned and looking at the history we've had with regards to our Cohasset-Panuck project, with the Sable project. We see the development potential of the Deep Panuck project and the go-forward opportunity that it presents with tie-in to the Sable infrastructure, with tie-ins to that as well, and with the potential of developing the Annapolis well and getting on for other exploratory activity in our offshore. And at Houston, Mr. Speaker, there was new momentum this year, a new enthusiasm for what the prospectivity of our offshore has to offer. And part of what we did as a government is look at creative solutions to how we can incent more development and more drilling in our offshore. Mr. Speaker, that was not done by sitting back and waiting for activities to come to Nova Scotia. It was done by getting out there and working very hard, doing our homework, preparing ourselves, getting our business case, and going to Houston and advancing it, and that's just what we did, and we did it in partnership with industries. We've seen new trade deals that were done in Houston by Nova Scotia-based companies and doing global deals. We're seeing Nova Scotia-based companies realizing more opportunities. When you consider, Mr. Speaker, we have the base infrastructure of a $1 billion pipeline through Maritimes and Northeast here in the province. We've seen billions of dollars invested in our offshore. We have 33 blocks, licensed blocks available for development with $1.15 billion in commitments on those blocks in our offshore for new development. And we want those commitments realized. So to do that, we're looking at the possibility of doing some consolidation of licensed blocks so that people will take the work commitments they have and make sure they're out there drilling. Because, Mr. Speaker, our government's preference and priority is to see royalties, not penalties, derived from our offshore activity. And we heard clearly from major players in the offshore that they want to be in Nova Scotia. There are players that are making a larger position in Nova Scotia, and there are people looking to make go-forward decisions. And I saw that confidence all around the trade show floor in the meetings we had with industry, working to help promote our local companies and seizing the opportunity in the day of advancing our energy strategy and working towards the types of outcomes that make Nova Scotia a stronger economic base, but make us a stronger province for quality and quantity of living for our citizens, and that's what we all strive to do. And we see that, Mr. Speaker, as a result of the accomplishment we had even with our offshore deal with Ottawa, $830 million in an upfront payment. That money directly against our debt, again, enabling government to go out there and work to provide the economic and other priorities for our citizens. And, Mr. Speaker, it's all because good, hard-working Nova Scotians have local ability with global reach. And we're seeing the success that's been derived off the Sable Offshore Project and other initiatives moving forward. We see Norsk Hydro, now known as Hydro, that's moving forward. Hydro is seeing going from having licenses to becoming an operator in our offshore, the 5th largest operator in the world with deep water plays. We're seeing that come forward in this area. We've had positive discussions with Marathon. We continue to work with ExxonMobil. We continue to have dialogue with Encana. And we've seen new investment, for instance, by Bass Enterprises, that, Mr. Speaker, have put up front an initial $40 million US towards their prospective drilling offshore Nova Scotia, and that drilling activity can see what they've estimated to be 800 million barrels of oil in that particular play. That is the equivalent of a Hibernia project, Mr. Speaker, as well as 250 billion cubic feet of natural gas. That itself is more prospectivity. That's confidence that's helping our local companies grow. That's the type of confidence that's growing Nova Scotia and building new opportunities. And that's why we were in Houston. And that's why we will continue to do our best to ensure that Nova Scotians know full well that their government is working in partnership with and in concert with every opportunity. We're not going to try and suggest that there are not economic concerns with regards to making sure that projects are realized and that we have to work within the market conditions, and that we will, Mr. Speaker, move fully to achieve that, and I welcome the other comments from my colleagues in the House, and I know we will continue to build on the resounding success of Offshore Technology Conference 05.
Recognized all member for Halifax Citadel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise and speak on this late debate in this particular matter. I thank the Honourable Minister for his comments. The Minister and I had some comments before the conference, Mr. Speaker, where I had an opportunity to encourage him quite wholeheartedly to go, because I was strongly of the view, I remain of the view that this initiative, Our Offshore, represents tremendous hope for Nova Scotia. I am somewhat concerned about overstatement, however, and I think to proclaim it a resounding success without some context is, well, perhaps it's my responsibility, Mr. Speaker, to provide some context to that. If the minister's resolution were to say that it was a resounding success in difficult times, then it might have been more appropriate, or that it went well in difficult times, then perhaps that would have been more appropriate. Clearly, we are ultimately in difficult times when it comes to our offshore. Nonetheless, I concur with his comments that it is largely through the hard work of Nova Scotians and the ingenuity that is being showed by our private sector that we have been as successful as we have, and we've kept the buzz alive. I would remind the Minister what many of my colleagues would want me to remind the Minister of, and that is that the single project that Nova Scotia presently enjoys is one that was brought on by a Liberal government a number of years ago. And I would also add this, that I had an opportunity to watch the waxing and waning of the Deep Panook project, and like him, I remain hopefully it's not hope against hope, but I remain hopeful that we will be able to land that project. But it was clear to me, as clear as it could be for somebody who is seated in the seat that I was in, that we would have Deep Panook and Canna on the books right now if it hadn't been for the regulatory problems that we encountered for the period of time that we did. We can do much better than we have been doing. We're in an ebb when it comes to our offshore. I'm encouraged to see that the government has at least taken some steps in this recent budget to provide money, and I recognize the increased amount that is provided in the budget that's for this department and the priorities that have been set out. Nonetheless, it has been 6 years, Mr. Speaker, and it's not just about the failure of this government, because it's not just their responsibility. It's about the geology. Nonetheless, my overriding conclusion with respect to this great possibility that sat before Nova Scotians in the late 1990s is that we could have been much further along than we are right now if we had straightened out the regulatory problems, if we had created a more positive buzz about us being open for business. We didn't get there at that time. The Minister speaks strongly about a new era, and I'm hopeful that indeed that will be coming. But the proof will be in the pudding. Nova Scotians deserve to be skeptical, or certainly many of them are skeptical, and I think their skepticism is warranted given the history of the last 6 years or so, particularly on the regulatory regime, and demonstrating to the world industry that we know what we're doing. The Minister has spoken positively about what's happened in Houston. I'll take him at his word that there was a strong commitment. Nonetheless, we're a long way from where hopefully we will be, and frankly where we should be. I wish the Minister well in his efforts to promote this. I'm encouraged to see that promotion is going to be an important element of the go-forward plan, and hopefully we do it with the level of tenacity and the level of sophistication that is warranted for this, because in the end it will be all Nova Scotians who benefit over a long period of time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those are my remarks.
Thank you. Thank the members taking part in this debate this evening. House adjourned to 12 noon tomorrow.